Awesome. I know we're going to have some folks joining us, so we'll take a few moments for people to hop on. As people join, just to kick things off here, welcome. We're super excited to have everybody here. And this is Electric Era's webinar, a quarterly series that we do on a variety of topics, from reliability and loyalty. Today, we're going to be talking about retail's loyalty frontier and how EV charging transformed the customer lifetime value. So this is a part 2 of 2 series. The first one was around reliability and kind of the fundamentals for you need reliable EV fast charging and technology in order to unlock loyalty and customer lifetime value. So chargers have to work in order for customers to be happy. So this leads well into part 2 of now we're going to talk about loyalty programs and how that seamlessly integrates with EV charging. So I'm super excited to have everybody here. I know folks are joining as we get started. So if you're here, definitely post some questions in the chat throughout this webinar. We want this to be dynamic. We want to hear from the audience. I'm excited to be joined by my guest speakers here. So we're going to have a really fun, I think, very important, productive conversation. But it's one that's going to be really great and worth having. So as we go through this, as you join, there's a couple of poll questions. We want to get to know you. We want to know who you are, where you're at in your EV journey. How many of your loyal customers actually drive EVs? Are you seeing EVs in your parking lots? What metrics are you most important tracking for your loyalty programs? Just to understand kind of the commonality of the metrics that folks are tracking internally for their core business. And how would you describe your EV charging rollout to date? So if you're joining us again, welcome. And populate some of these questions as we go through. I think they're going to be open the whole time. So if you don't get your questions in now or answers, no worries. The polls will be open.
Lots of good questions.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So we are going to get into the agenda. So just quick run through of agenda today. We're going to be talking about the EV driver. Who is the EV driver? The unique customer persona, getting to know who they are, how they behave, what their preferences are. Then we'll get into a Starbucks study. We'll have Joy share her experiences, from her time there around a really unique and transformational case study that she led. We'll be bridging the loyalty programs and EV charging programs together and how, both these things, are uniquely combined together as one. Then we'll calculate the true value really beyond the plug, right? Like what are the metrics? What are the data? How do we actually calculate this? Round it out with implementation strategies and best practices. So you really tangible outcomes for what you can go do after this webinar, and wrap it up with some Q&A from the audience here. Awesome. So just meeting the speakers here. I'm so excited. Genuinely, I'm a fan, Joy. I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts, so I'm so excited to have you on here today. Joy Dasgupta is joining us as a guest speaker. She is a loyalty and marketing expert, former Starbucks. She led loyalty over there. So, Joy, welcome, and I will pass it over to you for a quick intro.
Thank you, Brittany. I'm pleased to be here. Yes, I'm Joy. I worked for Starbucks for 13 years, so I've seen it go through a variety of different iterations of loyalty, and I currently consult with companies on their loyalty programs. And I also worked on Starbucks Wi-Fi rollout, which we'll talk about as an infrastructure rollout and some of its parallels to EV chargers. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. Can you all see my screen still?
No, it's not coming through.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Joy. Yeah, super excited to have you here. Quick intro on my side. So Brittany Kaplan, Enterprise Sales Manager at Electric Era. Formerly was, 4 years at Qualtrics, so helping enterprise customers really run their customer experience programs, which is really fulfilling. I mean, I was working with brands like Hyatt and Under Armour and GM and Rivian, really understanding, what is their voice of customer data and what are their CX programs actually saying. So then those businesses could take that feedback, understand it, analyze it, and then take action on it to ultimately improve the customer experience. So it was interesting looking at the data, and a lot of the customer sentiment was, hey, it wasn't the EV make and model that was deterring them from buying EV charging or EV vehicles. It was really the lack of EV infrastructure, was why they didn't want to purchase these EVs. So, with the automotive customers that I had, I really understood that there was a bigger problem to be solved here. And I'm fortunate enough to be at Electric Era, where I talk with enterprise retailers every single day now about EV charging, but also their, how to integrate with their loyalty programs. So my two favorite topics coming together in one webinar. I'm genuinely so excited to be on this call with Quincy and Joy. And just having a really fun, productive conversation. So Quincy, with that, I will pass it over to you. We have Quincy, our CEO and founder, on as well. So Quincy, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Brittany. Yeah, excited to be here, everybody. Good to talk to you all today. I'm definitely new to the kind of loyalty and retention space, but have been really coming up the learning curve quick, talking to enterprise retailers all over the country who see EV charging as a great way to grab customer attention and grow customer loyalty. But I'm very, very honored to be here with Joy and Brittany, who obviously had a lot of expertise in this space, and excited for the conversation.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get into meeting the EV driver. The new loyalty power shopper is how we are viewing them. So why do we feel like they're the power shopper, right? When we look at EV sales, year over year, there was 4.1 million EV sales in Q1 of 2025. So this is a 29% increase from 2024. I mean, the TLDR in summary here is that EV sales is accelerating. There's a continual increase in EV adoption over time. And, the adoption is up and to the right. And, EVs are here to stay. I think it's important segment of the market where they can't be ignored. EVs are going to be on the road and they're going to be increasing. And so we really need to pay attention to them, understand who they are, and, really capitalize on this opportunity with EV drivers. And Quincy, I would love to get your thoughts even on this. Being an expert in the space and, just electrification in general and EVs, would love to get your take on what you think are some of the key drivers to the continual increase of EV adoption today.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like a chicken and egg type industry where there's synergistic behaviors between the amount of EV charging infrastructure that exists and the amount of EVs that will be bought. That's something we hear from drivers all the time is and as you alluded to actually earlier in your comments about Rivian, is that EV drivers want to kind of see a trusted network of existing infrastructure that they can just kind of blend into their new automotive experience. And with more EV charging infrastructure, that drives more EV demand. So, excited to see the rapid build out of the EV fast charging infrastructure across the country. It needs to be reliable. It needs to be in great locations, and retailers possess, both of those options and both of those features. So I think that'll continue to propagate and grow EV adoption in the years to come in a pretty accelerated fashion, which really presents an interesting opportunity for forward-thinking retailers, because now there's this platform shift happening from ICE to EV as drivers modernize, and that's new share of wallet to grab. Those are new customers that could be in your parking lot, and thinking through your loyalty programs and modernizing them for the next generation of drivers is going to be a way to get ahead, frankly. And they're here, they're coming, and they're coming in droves. So it's great to kind of put pen to paper and think through these next strategies in regards to loyalty, retention, and continual growth of customer lifetime value.
Absolutely. What do you think the opportunity timeline for retailers considering EV charging is here? Like, do they need to act now or can they wait a little bit? What do you think?
Well, there's no there's no time like the present. That's what I always like to tell our internal team. And frankly, like a lot of the leading retailers are doing this already. So it might be too late, or not too late, but it's not worth waiting any longer, frankly. So it's good to get ahead. And the people that act fastest are going to be the ones that win the new audience, the new driver base. So I think in generally, now is the time for sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So kind of shifting gears from, EV, but then who are the actual drivers themselves? And we need to understand who these folks are. So just in summary, I mean, EV charging for level 3 DC fast charging, a little bit of a longer dwell time than your traditional fuel refill at the gas pump. It's 20 to 45 minutes. And so there's an opportunity here to actually capitalize on, driving behaviors within this dwell time that is ultimately going to lead to outcomes that are going to accelerate revenue and different metrics for your core business. So the demographics of these EV drivers, we know they're high earners. 45 to 65K more per year than the average US household. We know that they love their premium amenities and they're looking for premium retailers to charge at. Revenue impact, this is the equation, right? Like longer dwell time, high income earners, there's more money to spend. And so EV owners spend more while charging, directly correlating to larger basket size. So, I mean, Joy, would love to get your take on this of how do you kind of, your experience with Starbucks and just in general, like how does dwell time and demographics and revenue impact been, considered?
Well, certainly dwell time can translate into more reasons to purchase, or particularly depending on the retailer, if you have products that take longer consideration times or simply longer transaction times, now you actually have the built-in time. So for example, if you are a grocer and you have an eyewear office or something in financial services, transactions that may take more time, you now have that captured customer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Is there anything like a specific example that you can think of, companies that you've worked with, just to give the audience a more tangible example of something like this?
Well, I think banking is a good example. So that may be something where if you need a human interaction or you need a longer interaction, I mentioned eyewear. Those are often like very considered purchases where you want to try on frames, and they're not in and out. So for example, many inconvenience plays, you have a customer who's just there quickly and they may only want to get that candy bar or snack. But now within a longer dwell time, you create new occasions. So anything that you're thinking about in your retail experience that may require more time to actually consider and purchase, now you have that captive audience.
One good example that really sticks out in my mind, talking to convenience store owners all over the country, is the broader shift in the industry to hot foods. Hot foods is like a big macro trend. I'm sure many of the audience are thinking about this. That retailers are moving towards that in the C-store space because it's higher margin, it's larger revenues, and it's another reason for drivers to come back again and again and again. But of course, hot foods take a little bit longer than a Snickers bar. So there's this nice pairing of synergies between EV charging dwell time and things that are already happening in the C-store industry around the hot food shift that pair really nicely in this transition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too with hot foods. Often those are things that don't necessarily fit in your cup holder. So they don't necessarily they're not things you might buy because you're going to drive off. And so again, for certain stores that may be building out seating, these are customers that are going to have the time potentially to sit for a moment and actually consume those products.
Mm-hmm. You want to kind of sit down, be into the store, finish your sandwich. That's like a hot panini rather than just grabbing a candy bar and being on your way.
Right.
Yeah, it's dangerous to drive off with a hot panini in your lap. You risk getting burnt on that one.
Yeah, electric era here, we don't recommend that.
Yeah, no hot paninis, please.
So just digging into the EV driver profile a little bit more, right? Like this is a high value segment that we need to pay attention to. As I mentioned before, the household income, they earn 37% higher average income. Education level, 65% have bachelor degrees or higher education. Tech adoption, they're more likely to be early adopters of technology and innovation. And, they're more responsive to loyalty programs. So loyalty responsiveness is a key indication for this is an opportunity to really lean into loyalty and integrate it with EV charging because, they're going to respond well and they're going to interact and engage and participate. So just wanting to kind of dig into loyalty a little bit more, like let's stay there, right? So if we're going to focus on that, demographic and aspect of the EV driver, here's kind of what we're hearing and seeing from loyalty experts and what they're prioritizing in 2025. There's a ton of loyalty professionals on this call and experts. And so please in the chat, like, let us know if you're seeing this as well. This is just kind of high level, the things that we've been hearing. No one size fits all, right? So customer behavior is unique to individuals' brands. And so personalization is going to be really key. You really need to find that niche for your business and understand kind of the unique behaviors for your customer themselves. So no one size fits all. First party data is going to be critical. Data is everything, tracking return on investment, tracking their behaviors, really getting into some of the KPIs, repeat visits, repeat customers, calculating lifetime value. That's how you know that the program is actually, yielding a good ROI and it's a good investment for the business. Strategy, so evaluating the spend and frequency of loyalty members. So really understanding, how does this connect to the core pillars of my organization? Is it built into the strategy that's mission critical across all business lines? And then stakeholder alignment. I mean, that leads right into, do you have the right people at the table? Having the conversation, is loyalty in a silo, or is it really a bedrock that, marketing is on board with, the real estate teams are on board with, finance is on board with? Definitely want finance on your side when it comes to a lot of stuff like this, and the ops team. So stakeholder alignment is going to be critical. Bi-directional channels, Joy, I think we heard this from you directly, right? The bi-directional channels, I think marketers and loyalty leaders are trying to look for different digital avenues where customers can engage and interact and get something and take something. And there's this healthy dynamic between the loyalty program and the customer themselves, and not just some static like, hey, thanks for the QR code and I'm going to be on my way. Would love to get kind of your thoughts on any of these. I mean, which one do you think is most critical?
Oh, I could talk about this all day. I mean, I think it always begins with strategy, which is what are you trying to accomplish? Typically in retail, you are trying to get higher ticket or spend and frequency. And so as we'll talk about, EV charging offers in some cases a new occasion, so a new reason for people to come and spend money with you, in which they have a captive amount of time. So you can build a whole strategy around that piece. And I also think it's a really interesting opportunity for the EV installment itself. Anytime you have a new screen on your premise, you effectively have a new communication channel, and that's what we're talking about in that particular panel. So not only can your customer interact with you and share data or preferences or anything related to your loyalty program, a quiz, a game, anything to drive engagement, you also have the opportunity to broadcast information to them. So it becomes a two-way communication and potentially even a media play for retailers to promote and support either their own products or other third-party partners.
Which of these do you see retailers struggling with the most? Like, which one is the most challenging from the folks that you've been talking with?
I would say that strategy, depending on the retailer, can be a challenge. Collecting data, first-party data is often a challenge in that there needs to be a strong value equation. If people are going to give you data, they need to know what they're getting in return. But I think maybe this very first one, personalization, is probably the biggest challenge that I see because it's talked about a lot. but it is not always executed depending on the tech stack that companies have or just the vision. What does it mean to personalize? Is it putting your name on something, or is it actually knowing that because of your prior purchases, therefore you're going to make a specific offer to that consumer? So personalization means many things to different brands and to different consumers. And so while I think it's a great opportunity, I also think it's probably one of the biggest struggles that I see among clients.
Yeah, I think that's a really discerning observation, and I think it does boil down to the difficulty of implementing that. But the reward is well worth it because if you can delight and wow the driver, they're gonna love it. They're gonna associate your brand with a really fun, engaging experience, and that's a memory that will keep them coming back again and again. So, data I think is a really good access to data. I think is a really important part of making that personalization strategy shine. And if you can make it shine and you can wow and delight the customer when they show up, they're definitely gonna come back. That's my experience going into a Starbucks. Ironically, they say hi to me, they wave at me, they say, "Hey, welcome back." And the app has like little celebration emojis when I hit certain milestones. It's just a great experience. So kind of thinking about the EV charging station as a portal to deliver a personalized interface is a huge level up and a way to differentiate yourself in a crowded market.
I agree with that. And I think that's a really powerful and new and innovative way to connect with a consumer who in that piece is driving. But you'll have that data. You'll know how long it took them last time, for example. So you can give them an estimate on how long it's going to take. You would potentially know what they bought or what they did on their last visit, and you could present them relevant offers and content. So you do have a really unique and exciting opportunity to create a personalized experience. It is much more than a utility, and I think that's what's important. You're not just there to charge your car. You actually have an opportunity to make a real impact and an imprint on the consumer, and that's what loyalty is all about.
I think that's so well said. I think, historically, even in the EV charging space, it's just been kind of like this hardware thing. Whether you want to do it or not, maybe you have to, right? We want to put it in the back of our lots. Switching that mindset to understand, well, maybe actually I want to put it in the front because this is not a utility. This is not a commodified asset. If I can actually take advantage of, connecting with my customers and driving loyalty, it's an opportunity. So I really love how you articulated that. And I think too, these are the fundamental pillars because if you want to scale this, I mean, we're talking across the country, across the world, like the things are going to break down if you don't have the fundamentals in place.
Yeah, and there's definitely a perception shift from customers I talk to every day of instead of what it used to be in the 2018 2021 time period where it was check the box. Oh, I got to do EVs. I got to check the box. Now it's man, how is this a part of my go forward 10-year strategy? This is a complete reshifting of the way that I'm thinking about my business. And man, couldn't this be a great portal for us to grab new share of wallet through these types of approaches that we're talking about? So it's really cool to see kind of the shift in the industry from the customer happening on this front.
Absolutely. So we kind of just want to now talk about activating loyalty at the actual charging station. So this is where the strategy portion of what we just kind of discussed meets the technology itself, right? Like, what does this actually look like in practice? I think, I am fortunate to talk with enterprise retailers on a day-to-day basis, and kind of the common theme that I hear is they really want to own the customer experience. We want to, not only be a part of someone else's network, we don't want to be forced into, competing and being a part of someone else's charging network. Really, at Electric Era, we want to give the network back to the retailer. We want to give the brand back to the retailer. And so we understand that, loyalty is a huge component of that. So, we have a reliable EV charging station. Of course, that's the fundamental. The chargers have to work. And so, in order to unlock the loyalty and the lifetime value. So, specifically for retailers to integrate with their loyalty programs and brand, it's, the software that's vertically integrated into the retailer's ecosystem. So would love to hear your thoughts Quincy, on why now? Like, why do you think that we're seeing this shift now? And yeah, just would love your thoughts on to double click on that a little bit.
Well, I think the shift is happening because more and more of the cars in the parking lot of a retail are EVs, and that's just derivative back to the data that you showed at the beginning of the screen. Despite all the headlines, EVs continue to be purchased in pretty large volumes in America and, of course, abroad. And that, of course, is going to translate into more EVs showing up into more retailers' parking lots. And most retailers we talk to, they measure that. They say, "Oh, wow, we're at like 5%, 7%," or we're seeing customer surveys from our members or our customers that say, "Hey, are you guys going to offer EV amenities?" So drivers are going to be out there searching for a solution. And if you don't have it, the retailer across the street might have it. So I think that's the real why now. It's a competitive positioning, get ahead moment for the industry. So drivers are coming. You got to make a decision. You got to get ahead or you get left behind. It's kind of as simple as that in my simple mind, at least.
Yeah. And I think too, like it's important to understand the outcomes that you're trying to drive, right? You can do whatever you want with the screen, but understanding, do you want to drive in-store conversion? Do you want to drive loyalty, customer acquisition, or customer retention, or increase your basket size, increase repeat visits or frequency? Really understanding at a high level, like what are the business outcomes that you are trying to accelerate, and then using technology to effectuate that change, right? And so this is a kind of tangible, picture of what that looks like, but you still need the strategy, still need to know what you're driving so then you can apply it to the application in your parking lot. I was just talking with a big box grocer the other day, and he was telling me a story about, hey, we have our loyalty program. It's going very well. And we, all of our loyal customers are fuel, and they have at the gas pump, we have this flywheel going, they're coming back, they're using the points and they're going inside and it's working and it's great. But now 25% of their parking lots are EVs. So they're kind of losing this market share of they're loyal to the brand and they're in the program, but now they've bought an EV. And so I guess Joy would love your input and perspective on this. Like, what happens to that population? Are they still going to be loyal to the brand, or are they a flight risk? I think you're on mute. No
Yeah.
worries.
Sorry, I don't necessarily think they're a flight risk, but boy, that feels like a missed opportunity, right? And one that you probably can't afford, because that 25% is going to turn into 30% and then 35% and so on and so on. So I think that the EV charger becomes this critical way to capture those occasions and also to extend the loyalty program. So what starts as fuel rewards may also extend to fuel and EV charging rewards in order to deliver more value to that particular consumer. So I think it's going to be an essential component for so many retailers in this space. And with these particular screens, you can do anything. I mean, it's really a blank slate. It's not necessarily just advertising. It's also an interactive display that can be used for all kinds of different, really whatever you can dream up. So that's a big difference between your traditional gas pump.
And that's a good leeway. Maybe Quincy, like, how does this screen work? What can people do with this screen? Is it all up to them? Can they customize it themselves? Like, talk to me more about the technology of like how to actually do this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what can they do is pretty unbounded, as Joy mentioned, but we see common conversations around three key categories. The first is point of sale extension. So retailers want to, allow drivers to purchase something on the charging screen or enroll in a premium membership program. So that's a big one. So, we can do that. Another one is it's loyalty program enrollment for the first time, and loyalty program insights. So not just getting in the loyalty program, but actually servicing up unique and personalized insights or promotions or exclusive offerings for the person when they show up. So that bi-directional interface that Joy mentioned earlier, that's the second big category. And then finally, personalized marketing and advertisements. So getting the right insight, the right promotion in front of the driver to get them inside the store to maybe increase their basket of goods size. That's what we would call like personalized marketing and advertisements. Or you could do that from an affiliated partner who wants to put their ad on your screen to increase consumption of that inside their store. Those are kind of the three big cohorts. And just from like a software perspective, the more integration that you have with the platform from your database, the more you can do with it. So to do all these things requires a small investment from the team internally, but once you make that unlock, then the world is your oyster.
I think another important thing that you mentioned, Brittany, that I don't think can be stressed enough is that this allows the brand to show up the way they want to. It's their brand. So you can skin that, you can brand it, it can be your brand colors, it can be that visual identifier in that parking lot, and it's your brand. And so having that ownable experience from end to end is one of the things I see from clients all the time. They don't necessarily want to cede it to a third party. And a Starbucks example that might be kind of interesting here is that when Starbucks first offered Wi-Fi infrastructure, way back when Wi-Fi was just getting started, the partner was originally T-Mobile. And so everything had to be branded with T-Mobile. And for anybody who's a T-Mobile customer, you'll know like that is their brand color is magenta. And so just a funny story is like Starbucks is not a magenta brand. It's green with wood. Yeah. So just the conversations about how to make magenta work were very painful. So that's sort of a funny example. But over time, Starbucks decided that they don't want, like many retailers, to have a third-party brand on an experience. They want it to be ownable. And so now, of course, many years later, when you go into a Starbucks and you see a splash page, it's all Starbucks branding. And so that's just a small but sort of similar parallel to the EV charging station. You want that to reflect your own brand, and you don't necessarily want to share that real estate with a third party.
I could not agree more. I think that lends really well into just kind of the example and the experience that you've had at Starbucks. You mentioned the Wi-Fi program that you were heavily involved in leading. Would love to just get your perspective and hear some of the anecdotes there and the use case for that program.
Sure. And knowing we want to leave time for questions, I'll just go kind of quickly. So if you think about it, there was a time, depending on how old you were, where not every Starbucks had Wi-Fi and coffee shops did not have it. And people thought like, oh, it's a coffee shop. Why would you have this infrastructure? And similar to EV charging stations, the infrastructure became an actual driver. People would show up now at coffee shops to work, to have meetings, to do interviews, but that wasn't always the case. So back in like 2005, there wasn't a Wi-Fi hotspot in every single store. So it took time for Starbucks to recognize that by building these, what you thought were ancillary technologies were sort of nice to have, but it became need to have. People would choose their locations based on whether or not they had internet access. And so that is where I could see EV charging becoming. It will become a utility, but Starbucks got that first mover advantage and it set the marketplace. So I think it's just an interesting case to consider.
It's incredible. And I think, as we go through the timeline of, Starbucks isn't a Wi-Fi company, right? You're a coffee company. And
Right.
you use Wi-Fi as a lever to pull because you understood why customers were coming there, doing their homework, taking calls, working. You know that was going to be an amenity that was going to really capture those behaviors. And so not sure if you want to kind of talk through the timeline really quickly on that, but yeah, would love to hear.
I think it's just interesting to look at, over basically a 10-year period. And this, as customers are thinking about EV charging stations, I don't know what the time frame will be, but you can just see a parallel here. We started in 2002, and it was a paid service. Just like right now, EV charging, you pay, right? But then we started to incorporate it into the loyalty program that became a benefit. So the value exchange is, hey, you become a member, we collect data, we learn about you, you get 2 hours of free access. And then when it becomes so ubiquitous that everybody is offering this, it becomes it's not an amenity anymore. It's an expected utility. And we're actually starting to see that on airplanes now. Delta is free. American announced that it's going to be free. And so if you wait too long, you're going to have to offer it for free. And so getting in and building that infrastructure was important, and it was an important sort of advancement, both for the cafes as well as for a loyalty program amenity.
I couldn't agree with that more. And I think like that's such a good descriptor of first mover advantage. I think the really important thing for folks to remember on the call is people build muscle memory, and they associate Starbucks, for example, with Wi-Fi because that's where they first experienced Wi-Fi in a coffee shop, and they could experience or associate rather charging with your business if you have that first mover advantage and you do it in a way that's really delighting to them. So the earlier you act, the more advantage you stand to gain against your competitors as you build out this net new amenity that drivers are going to come eventually to expect.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, Joy, as you kind of went through that program and scoping it out, you had to sit down and look at the journey map. This is what we did at Qualtrics all the time. We individually looked at their business, looked at the customer behavior and the customer experience, and what were the touch points that we were going to interact with them so we can delight them and make that, incremental experience better at every single touch point in the journey. So kind of getting into what does that even look like, right? Like we just talked about the why. Why are people doing this? This is the when, I like to say, of when does this happen? When do you interject? When do you interact? How do you form those intentional moments where you can actually drive conversion and drive an outcome that you want to accelerate for your core business? So just kind of quickly going through this. This is what we do with our customers all the time. It's very fun. Going through like, how does the driver, when they get into their car and they show up to your station and your store, to charging, to getting a promotion, interactive ordering, ordering something on the screen, in-store shopping, because the dwell time, as we talked about, was 20 to 45 minutes, pick up and check out, charging ends, successful charge, and then rewards for next time. I think that is a key thing at the end where you're not just coming back, you're not just doing this once, you're coming back time and time and time again over 10 years, 20 years. Your family's now coming back, your friends, the net promoter score, you're getting everybody to come to this station. And that's where the lifetime value really, accelerates. So this is something that we do. I think it's, an interesting journey mapping exercise that's needed because then you understand the touch points.
That this is such a great piece of collateral. The two really important ones for folks to index on is charging initiation and promotion incentive. Like that's where all the magic happens, and people are just locked in. They're locked in at that moment in time. So if you give them a little nudge, a little push, a little promotion, that's where the conversion happens. That's where the basket of good uplifts happens. That's where the repeat behavior is induced. And then at the end as well, there's another little snapshot where people are getting kind of a wave goodbye moment. They're checking their data. I got 80% SOC state of charge. I paid $7, $8, $10, $20, whatever it is. They're locked in again for 5 seconds, let's say, and that's where you can surface those insights. So the screen and the interactive behavior that the driver just naturally has when they're charging lends itself well to nudges that can ultimately increase your top line revenue, which is obviously the goal of the whole thing.
Absolutely. So loyalty retail application inside the charging station. So we kind of talked about this already, right? Quincy, you kind of mentioned the personalized marketing that you can do with this, the loyalty programming and the point of sale extension. And so just double clicking into loyalty itself, this is kind of the how, right? So we talked about the why and the when, and now this is how you do it. And these are just examples. So, this is what we've seen from some loyalty programs and just seamlessly integrating with points, rewards for charging, tiered charging benefits, mobile app loyalty integration, charge discount, free with purchase. So just wanted to give the audience some examples of, what you can do, what you're probably already doing, and then just pulling that into the EV charging experience. Yeah, Joy, I mean, like for you, right? I mean, what is the key thing for making a loyalty program successful, I guess, at the end of the day? If you can give the audience kind of just like, what is it that people should be thinking about here?
It's all about right message, right time, right place. So relevance. And while I'm saying that, I'll answer, sort of address one of the questions that came through in the Q&A about the fact that, somebody's gonna charge and then they're gonna get in their car and just start scrolling for social media, right? Especially if it's cold. So I think the way I would be thinking about that with a charging station is, and I'm using a Starbucks example, but cold weather equals hot beverage. And to the extent that you can, if you've charged and you have permission to send a message to that person's phone because they are on your phone, and that is important. And that's why the mobile app becomes essential. That's where you're pushing, it's cold outside, and weather related messaging is very effective. We'd like to offer you, X amount of points to come in and enjoy a hot beverage or a coffee on us. So I think that it's true. You can't necessarily expect people to be standing out there on a cold day, touching the screen, but with that phone, the mobile phone combined with the charging station and a compelling reward, that I think is a really strong recipe for success.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's really good insight for the audience and everybody on the call today. So kind of just going through this, and I know we want to leave some time for Q&A. I think we can send this deck out. Really just, what we're driving here is that this is creating a win-win opportunity, both for EV drivers and also retailers. And if we look at data, time, spend, and frequency, as an organization, you want to do what's best for your customer, of course. And I think there's a combination here where you do what's best for your customer and you can also get the benefit for your organization. It's a win-win opportunity for both. Just like the example that Joy gave with Wi-Fi, it was good for the customer and it was also good for Starbucks. Here are some real world examples just from 7Charge and Walmart and how they're already doing this today. It's just some proof points of, welcome to EV charging at Walmart. So we're already seeing this shift happen in the field. And it's really cool to see, how the industry has evolved over the last even couple of years, in the loyalty space. Cool. Just wanted to also flag that we have a station lifetime value calculator. So this can be found on our website. And what I love about this, and we, take customers through this all the time, we take a consultative approach here at Electric Era, where yes, customer lifetime value is a common metric that everybody, measures, but it's not a one size fits all, right? I mean, the basket size for your business is different. The in-store conversion rates, the sessions per day for that location, is different. And if you're a big box retailer versus a convenience store, you really need to tailor the customer lifetime value equation to your business specifically. So just wanted to flag, reach out to the team if you're interested in actually getting, a lifetime value calculator. We can calculate the value for your business for the retail extension kind of program of this, integrating all the things that we talked about. Would love to have a conversation with you about it. Great. So yeah, I think we can open up to Q&A. This is just kind of tactical, how you can get started today, right? We'll leave you with this. Stakeholder alignment is key. Success metrics and measurement is going to be really critically important to be able to track those KPIs. Customer experience design and the journey mapping that we went through. Loyalty programming, mapping, benefits tiers, like how you actually do it. So, the why, the when, the how, and then the technical integration points of POS, loyalty, like the APIs, really like getting down to brass tacks on like how are these connectors going to work and what teams need to be involved. Awesome. And just a few key takeaways, more than just infrastructure, EV drivers have unique behaviors. And, now is the time to use this new technology to your advantage. It's an opportunity that you can capitalize for, driving a better customer experience and also driving outcomes for your business. Sweet. So just wanted to take a few minutes here to do some Q&A. So I think we can just read a question or two here. Let's see. what are some common pitfalls retailers face when trying to scale EV-based loyalty experiences across multiple locations or markets? So, what pitfalls do they need to think about when they're actually, maybe they deployed at one, but they're trying to scale this across their portfolio? Either Quincy, maybe this one's better for you.
Could you repeat the question, Brittany? Sorry.
Yeah, just some common pitfalls that retailers face when trying to actually scale EV-based loyalty experiences across multiple locations or markets.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think getting the bedrock right, and making sure that you can quickly build out your infrastructure and you can operate the charging station effectively and reliably in a way that can delight the customer. I think that's the biggest first pitfall that a lot of people get in trouble with, is they build charging infrastructure. It takes them a long time, and then when it's active, it doesn't work. That's a recipe for disaster, right? So you got to get those two big things first. And then the second one, once it's live, and if you do those two first things well, getting the data integrations done. That's the next big one. You can't use the screen unless there's a data integration to the screen on the charger. And that's where all the magic happens. So getting the data integration complete and measuring the program is the next two big items, I would say.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We'll capture all these questions and we will respond via email after this webinar. Here are some resources that the audience can take away with them. Joy, I actually put your loyalty, information, your LinkedIn and your email at the slide. So if folks want to reach out to you if they have questions about loyalty. But yes, Joy, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an awesome conversation. Is there anything that you want to say just to close it out for everybody?
Oh, wow. I would say get started, especially because as you think about your loyalty currencies, EV charging is just another way to incent purchases, and it's another way to reward purchases as your currency. And that's the number one thing consumers are looking for in loyalty programs. They want their currencies to do more for them and to be easier to redeem. So this is a really exciting time to integrate EV and loyalty programs. That's what I would say. So
Incredible. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much for this. That's it, everybody. Thanks for hopping on with us. We're going to have our next webinar on June 25th, and we're actually going to be talking to some EV drivers and get into the mind of the EV driver. So make sure to reserve your spot for that and don't miss that conversation. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.